Okay, making sure everything is connected here. And everything is a go. I think. As long as the screen pops up. Yep, there it is. Okay, we are a go here. I am going to double check if I can find my remote. Oh, I buried it. I'm going to check here on my TV, on my live stream. Okay, just making sure everything is up and ready to go, guys. And yes, welcome to this video. The timing, I guess you could say, is perfect as I adjust my seat. There we go. Adjust my seat a little bit. But yeah, welcome to this video where we're looking back at this week, this past WrestleMania week, which concludes, believe it or not, tonight at the Wells Fargo Center with Monday Night Raw, the Raw after Mania. And the first Raw after Mania under the new era, the new Renaissance era, the new Triple H era, if you will. No Vince whatsoever. And that was the common thing all across wrestling this week. That was the common thing all across wrestling this week. That basically Vince was not present anymore, as I just filled up the screen a little bit more. There we go. But yeah, Vince was not present. And people actually enjoyed it. They actually enjoyed it just a bit more as I do that. There we go. Trying to fill up the whole screen here, if you will. There we go. Let me just adjust that. There we go. But yeah, everybody was commenting that this is a new era. It felt very, fresh, very different, very, cleansing, if you will, so to speak, when it comes to wrestling, mostly in WWE. Felt very, very new, if you will. It felt like it was a long overdue makeover that was necessary, and you could definitely see that, in the product itself, especially throughout both nights of WrestleMania. Now, I know night one, and I mentioned this in my review, and others have mentioned this in their review as well. Night one was good. The matches were good and everything, decent. Many felt like it was more of a prelude, a pre-show, an appetizer, to yesterday, to Sunday. And I don't disagree with that whatsoever. I mean, you had your moments and everything. Again, good matchups and everything, good in-ring competition. But it did feel like it was an appetizer, a prelude of what's to come. Others, like Alex Hicks of Alex's World, just Alex here on YouTube, he basically made the comparison, and others have made the same comparison as well, to Saturday being, like Avengers Endgame, and then, not Avengers Endgame, but Saturday being Avengers Infinity War, and then yesterday being Endgame. If you kind of catch the reference there. And they are right, especially when Cody came out yesterday, the way his intro began, his prelude intro, and before he rose up and everything, or as he was rising up and he had that mask on, and then Brandy was out with him. Yeah, you could definitely feel like there was a definite, I guess you could say, Avengers Endgame like vibe to that entrance for Cody. You could definitely feel that. But yeah, there is no doubt that you could feel it. It definitely felt different. It felt more like this is what was finally needed after all this time. And I see all these trolls online and everything. I mean, I was just coming back from using the facilities, if you know what I mean. And I was looking at my phone, and I was looking at Facebook, and somebody comments on one of the, I think it was the Wrestling Headlines Facebook page. They're like, oh, crying emojis. They're like, oh, WrestleMania wasn't the same without Vince. It's like, come on. And then all of a sudden and then throughout the week, you had people being like, oh, I wonder how people are going to react when Roman wins. It's like, come on. If you guys are not going to, enjoy this like everybody else and just mock it, then don't get online. Jeez. Let people sit back and enjoy it. I mean, there were some people, using the whole Luigi meme from the Super Mario Brothers movie where he's telling Mario that is cinema, referencing to, oh, Roman's going to win, and how this, and this, and this, and that, when it comes to what the outcome could be like with Roman winning. And then they're saying, because that's cinema. Because everybody's saying that it's like cinema, just the way it's being presented. So they're trying to use it as like, that's cinema, right? That's cinema. It's like, come on, dudes. Again, if you're not going to let people enjoy it, then don't come online and make a mockery of it, okay? We get it. Some of you, even when it's looked at as legit pro wrestling, some of you are like, why do you buy into this stuff? It's fake. It's like, dudes and dudettes, do us a favor and grow up, okay? Just grow up. That's all I'm going to say. Because it feels like mainly, in my opinion, that you look at what we're enjoying here. We're getting excited about it. Like, you look at it like we're being a bunch of idiots. And we're not. We're just showing our love, our fandom for the product. And we're enjoying the fact that somebody that's meant a lot to the business himself, and the lineage he has, coming in and saying, okay, I was going to do this for the fans because this is what the fans wanted, but obviously they want something else. So you know what? They come first. We'll give them what they want. And that's what he did. And that person was The Rock. And he did it masterfully, in my opinion. He took basically the fans not wanting him and Roman just yet, and instead wanting Cody. And he took that and said, okay, that's fine. I'll make that work. And the rest is history. And he did it masterfully. So for anybody that wants to come out here and mock people for enjoying things, enjoying the build to WrestleMania and all that because of something, because of The Rock and what he was doing, it's like, seriously, seriously, it's the old saying goes, get a life. Get a life. It's like, if you don't like what people enjoy, then why are you commenting? Huh? I'll tell you why people comment, because they're trolls. I've said this for a while. They are nothing but trolls that are looking for trouble. That's what they are. And people in the live chat, if you want to chime in, let me know if I'm telling lies. But yeah, this was, again, I said in my review, I thought this was a great WrestleMania. And that's the phone going off. And that's my mom again. Hold on, guys. I do apologize for this. Hello? Yeah. And what's very funny is she never comes in. And she came in when we were busy because we had to keep the kids in. And I said, oh, I went up to her and I told her what was happening. She said, she fixed it. She signed for them. She put theirs. She signed for all of them. And then she fixed it. But now the iPad is back to normal. Hopefully, and check out everything. And all they have to do is just check out, sign and check out. That's it. Yeah. So I think it got so mortified because I was like, oh my gosh, now I got to stand there and have them all sign and then have them fix it later. Yeah. And I had to do the planning too. And we didn't get to finish the planning. I thought, oh, so I'm working on the planning. And that was an answer to my prayers. I was just like stressed out. Yeah. Like, and now I'm going to stand there with them and everything, because the parents think. So hopefully tomorrow, the iPad doesn't do this. I hope not. Sorry, she likes to talk a lot. Change the way we're doing stuff. I don't know how they're going to do it. So online or something like that. But hanging in, I don't know. They're going to change the way that we're doing it right now. iPad, but we're not going to have iPads anymore. I don't know what they're going to give us. Yeah. Online. So I don't know what that means. If it's on the parents' phone or on, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. We'll figure that out. I'm not the one figuring that out. That's all I read. So yeah. It says online. They're going to stop using the Child Plus app. Yeah. Okay, I got to get Sorry about that, guys. That was my mom. I thought she'd already called. She was done. She was going to go back to work, obviously, because she was on her lunch break. But yeah, she just had a stressful day so far. She got up late, a little late. Was rushing herself out. She had to pick up somebody's dog poo in the Tambark area, dirt area on the left side of our house. Somebody, obviously, she's thinking walk their dog and let them just do their business there. And then, of course, the sign-in iPad that they used for the school, the Head Start, didn't work. And, she was just all stressed and everything. And she said basically she prayed and, God answered her prayers by basically having one of the office people come in and fix it for them and all that. So, yeah, that's why she called. I had a feeling that was going to happen. I mean, I thought that was going to happen. Well, here's the thing. I thought, had I done this earlier, had I started this earlier before I had to use the facilities, which I, did before starting this, I had a feeling, basically, long story short, I had a feeling she might call during the live stream. It's just a, timing issue, if you will. But yeah, like I said, she likes to talk a lot too, But I do love my mom. I do love her. What she was doing earlier when she called me during her first break was venting during her 10-15 minute break. Basically using up all her break to do that, and then, so on. But anyway, yeah. But yeah, getting back to what I was saying, where was I? You see, that's what happens, I lose track a little bit. So I do apologize. I do apologize for that. Basically, like I was saying, we just have a bunch of trolls out there that just, if it's like that old saying, if you don't find what we're doing being, interesting, or you're not going to get invested in it yourself, then, why even bother bothering us unless you're just bored? Just grow up, get a life and everything, and move on. Just, stop trolling. Stop memeing and saying things like, oh, what if this happened? What's that? Come on, guys. Stop trying to BS, all right? Grow up. That's all I'm going to say. But yeah, like I said, WrestleMania I thought was good. Both nights were good. And as I was saying, as well before the phone rang, the way it was presented, especially with the Cody situation, is like people like Alex Hicks of Just Alex's World pointed out, and others pointed out too, it was presented almost like Saturday was Infinity War, Sunday was Endgame, and you pretty much, if you've watched those movies, know exactly what the result was going to be. And it was pretty much in that vein, because Cody's like, okay, I got to get my Avengers assembled, and he did. He got Cena, he got Jey Uso, he got Taker, and it worked out. It worked out perfectly. He got Seth Rollins as Shield Seth Rollins, and it worked out. It worked out perfectly. But anyway, outside of WrestleMania, of course, WrestleMania week, which starts basically the Raw, which starts basically on the go home edition of Raw, I should say. Basically WrestleMania week was tremendous in the eyes of a lot of folks because, a lot of people, like I was saying earlier, and I mentioned in my review yesterday, and other people have been talking about, and that's a notification I got there. I do apologize for that. Let me just put that over there. But anyway, like I was saying, one of the common threads people were talking about with this WrestleMania week was, the difference in the atmosphere and all that, and that it was basically the Triple H era, the Renaissance era, the Paul Levesque era. And there's no doubt you're seeing that. It's the TKO era. It's the Nick Khan era. It's the People's era, the Rock's era, if you will. And, you can't tell me you don't see that in some of what you saw this weekend. This past week, I should say. You can't tell me you didn't see or feel that influence. For example, you had, Bloodsport 10, and you had, Shayna Baszler, Zoe Stark, and Charlie Dempsey, competing in the event. And you had in attendance Braun Strowman, Dakota Kai, I think Tegan Knox, and and many others. CM Punk. And here's what's interesting. here's what's interesting. Basically, Vince McMahon, even as part of the TKO board, and let me get a drink here for a second. And yes, this is what's remaining of a 2-liter. But anyway, you can definitely tell there's a change because as I've talked about before, like I talked about before in the video, I'm trying to think about what I'm going to say here. You know, Vince McMahon would not allow this if he was still in charge. I mean, a good example of this is when CM Punk mentioned interacting with Vince for the first and last time ever when he returned. And Vince hugged him, said welcome home and all that. Well, before that, CM Punk was brought in, to, work out at the gym in new Titan Towers, the new headquarters in Stamford for WWE. And the trainers for Vince came down and said, hey, look, you need to get off your phone, take your headset off, or take your headbuds out, or your earbuds out and everything, because Vince doesn't like that. And ironically, CM Punk was talking to Nick Khan at that time, when he was told. So that kind of tells you that even though Vince, at that time was a member and chairman of the board for TKO, he was, he still had the mindset of, hey, I'm like third under, it's like I'm second to third under Ari Emanuel. I still have say, I still have power, so I'm going to act like, nothing's changed. And when you have Vince's trainers saying that, thinking, well, wait a minute, if he's not in charge, then why should his trainers care about what he says and what, of what he's saying, what he says going, if you know what I mean. But yeah, he still had that mentality. And he, because again, he was like the second under Ari Emanuel, so he kept that mentality. He just couldn't, get involved creatively. He couldn't get involved creatively or anything like that. And like I said, if Vince was still around, even in that capacity with that mindset of his, there is no way, and I mentioned this in the video I did on it, there is no way Vince would have allowed Shayna Baszler, Charlie Dempsey, Zoe Stark to even appear, or to appear or even compete at a show like GCW Bloodsport, GCW Josh Barnett's Bloodsport. He wouldn't have allowed it. Hell, he wouldn't even allowed talent to attend it. Nobody have allowed Nick Khan to attend it. And yet all that happened because he's gone. Because he's out. He's done. He wouldn't have allowed it to happen. The thing is, he wouldn't have allowed that to happen, even though Ari Emanuel's his boss, and Ari probably been like, hey, I'm cool with it. Vince, underneath him, would be like, nope, it's still I'm still, working at those areas or working in that building. I'm still running it like I own it. Guess what? What I say goes when you're not around. Well, he's not. Well, now he's, I'm trying to find the right words to say here. Well, he's not anymore. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. But yeah, that's just an example right there. It's just an example of the breath of fresh air, the change that has happened, because now you have Triple H, you have Dwayne Johnson, you have Nick Khan, basically coming out and saying, hey, talent, if you want to have something to do, if you want to go and compete at all these different events during WrestleMania week, SummerSlam week, whatever, if you want to do that, that's cool with us, as long as you get the okay to try to take part in it, if they want you to take part in it. And again, it just shows you how much of a breath of a fresh air all of this is, how much of a change is being felt, not just within WWE, but throughout all of pro wrestling. Maybe with the exception of AEW, but hopefully they'll get on the ball real soon. They'll get on the ball real soon. But yeah, again, you could feel things have changed in a massive, massive way. I mean, you want a good emphasis of that? Ladies and gentlemen? How about you have Michael Cole, Corey Graves, and Pat McAfee at the end of last night talking very highly of how much they love pro wrestling? Do you think Vince would have allowed them to say that? No. If Vince was there, he would have been like, okay, you go out there and say at the end of the show how much you love sports entertainment. That's what Vince would have had. Not this time. It's pro wrestling. And pro wrestling is no longer a dirty word. And what's interesting, just reported today, TKO wants to get as far away. They want to get as far away as they can from the terminology known as sports entertainment. Yeah. TKO Endeavor wants to get as far away from that as they can. And you know what? That's good. Because if you associate sports entertainment with WWE or pro wrestling, guess what? That means you're still associating it with Vince McMahon. And they don't want that. So that's a breath of fresh air. Again, excuse me, that's a breath of fresh air. And, I look at all this and I just get a laugh, looking at all this, and I just get a laugh at the fact that, what everybody talked about, last year, what everybody talked about, worrying about Vince would get power and everything would be doom and gloom. Not only did they get proven wrong, and I got proven right, not trying to praise myself or put myself on a pedestal, but I kept coming on here, live stream, recordings, on camera, audio. I kept saying that Vince is not going to have the influence you think he's going to have. And guess what? He didn't. Triple H is the one running things, not Vince. Vince had no say. And all that doom and gloom, much to the surprise of people like JD, Alex, Solomonster, Greg Morgan, all disappeared. And they started seeing that, maybe some people that said Vince wouldn't have control were correct. Yeah, we were. You know why? Because we're wrestling fans, but we're the kind of wrestling fans that will be on the outside looking in. We'll be on the outside looking in, taking this all in and being like, yeah, there ain't no way Vince is going to have the control he used to have if he's going to have a boss now. So I had a feeling things were going to be for the better, and they were. Things were going to be for the better, and they were. And I don't think anybody watching this live or watching this later or even listening to it live, or not listening, but listening to it later, because I'm going to upload this on other platforms, I don't think anybody watching or listening to this would disagree with that. I don't think they would. But yeah, it's been a great week for pro wrestling. Great week. I mean, Natty, not only was backstage for Bloodsport 10 and intended for it, to support Shayna Baszler, Zoe, and Charlie Dempsey, not only was she backstage for that, but she was backstage for Stardom American Dream 2024. What does that tell you? What does that tell you, huh? As I mentioned in my previous video, Vince would have never allowed that to happen. Never. He would have never allowed that to occur. Because Vince is the kind of guy that would have eyes and ears everywhere, even if he was third in command under Ari Emanuel. Even if he was second or third in command under Ari Emanuel, who was his boss, Vince would still have eyes and ears everywhere. And once he would hear or get a whiff of, superstars are at GCW supporting this star going there, or this star is being talked about going there, Vince would have shut it all down. He would have, even with stars being in attendance for something, he would have shut it all down. He would have gone and had somebody go and get Natalia and say, Natalia, Vince wants you away from here. And then she'd be like, "What? I'm just in attendance, just visiting people." And said, "He wants you away. Nope, you got to go back to the WrestleMania area." He would have done that. Vince would have done that, but now that's not. But now that's not going to happen again. That's not going to happen. Period. Because here's the thing: even if Vince finds a way to get clear of this, the stain the stain that he has put upon himself is going to be too hard to clean. It's going to be too hard to clean. At all. He's not going to be able to cleanse himself as easily as he thinks he can. Even if he's cleared. Which I highly doubt he will be. And what's crazy too is, I mentioned this in the review and everybody's been talking about it. When Stephanie McMahon came out, you could just tell she has she's more jubilant. It feels like a weight, a burden has been taken off her shoulders. I mean, yeah, she was named as one of the corporate officers that probably had an idea of what Vince was doing, or at least knew about Vince and Janelle Grant's relationship, but didn't know what they were doing out, within that relationship, didn't know what they were doing, beyond, her eyes and everything. But, despite that, despite being named as the third corporate officer that knew about the relationship but didn't know anything outside of that, like what they did, like I said, beyond her eyes, You have to think that the way she presented herself yesterday, she was just jubilant. She was like a burden had been taken off of her. She felt, in my opinion, reborn. Like she was reborn and everything and ready whenever she wants to make a return to WWE. And you know it. You know it. I know it. And you could just see it. You could just see it in her eyes. You can. You could just see it in her eyes. Honestly. Honestly, you can. You can see it in her eyes, period. And I don't think anybody can deny that. I don't think anybody can deny that. But, yeah, what a week it's been. What a week it has been. And I have to, and like I did last year, and I'll say it again, I have to give credit to a lot of the talent out there. I do. Because within the span of this past week, you had talent. You had talent competing on not one, not two, not three, but 4 shows within the span of a day. And within the span of a few hours. Yeah. You had that. You had that. I mean, I'll give you an example. Blake Christian, All Heart Blake Christian, competed on the 0 hour for Supercard of Honor. And he competed against the man formerly known as Black Taurus. And yeah, he lost, but he competed. Guess what happened? Several hours later, he's competing in GCW at Clusterfuck Forever. Excuse my language, God, but that's pretty much what it was called. Clusterfuck Forever. He was there. So give him credit. He went from Ring of Honor, getting his butt kicked in there, to being at GCW competing. That's saying something. Mike Bailey, same thing. He did what he did last year too. He went from competing at WrestleCon to competing at Bloodsport to complete, and I think that was all within a day. He went from competing there. He went to competing against Marsha Slamovich, at Wrestling Revolver versus House of Glory. And within the same day, I think he went back to GCW and competed. I mean, this guy was all over the place. And then, I think it may have been within. It wasn't what. Okay, I'm trying to find the right word to say. It wasn't within the same day, but within the span of less than 24 hours, you had Mariah May reunite with her Club Venus members for the Stardom event, American Dream, and then, 24 hours or less than 24 hours later, you have her competing in Ring of Honor's 0 hour. Now, I don't know if she competed anymore after that, but that's a testament to her. To do a hard hitting, Joshi strong style event or match, 6-woman tag, the previous night, and then rest up less than 24 hours later, or rest up to go less than 24 hours later and compete in Ring of Honor for, in a similar kind of match. So very, I guess you could say, what's the word I'm looking for? It's just a very respectful, I kind of find God, I'm trying to think about the word I'm trying to say here. It's just a very, very respectful, I'll just put it that way, very respectful demeanor to have, especially during WrestleMania weekend, because you want to get your name out there. You do. You want to get your name out there. But yeah, this past week was crazy. It was just crazy. In fact, I got a list here. I'll go any further. I got a list here of the week and everything that they had. So here we had basically on April 4th, which was, let's see, today's the 8th. Let's see, last Monday was the 1st, 2nd was Tuesday, 3rd was Wednesday, 4th was Thursday. So on the 4th, on May 4th, we had, these are the events they had. They had the Mark Hitchcock, the Mark Hitchcock Memorial Super Show, or Mark Hitchcock, Mark Hitchcock, March, easy for me to say. The Mark Hitchcock Memorial Show, the Memorial Super Show, the Mark Hitchcock Super Memorial Show. And then in the same day, they had Defy Wrestling, Can't Deny It, Defy, which was headlined by a Defy World Championship match between Kenta and Gringo Loco. Then we had, of course, the aforementioned Bloodsport. Then you had DDT Goes Philadelphia with the DDT Universal Championship on the line, no rules. Mayo against Billy Starks. And Billy Starks, by the way, competed 24 hours later at Supercard of Honor. Then you had GCW and JCW versus the World. Basically, two GCWs within the same event, same day, and possibly with some of the same competitors, if not other competitors. Then you had Stardom American Dream 2024, which was headlined by Megan Bain and Maka for the World of Stardom Championship, and that's all on April 4th. That was all on Thursday. Then Friday, you had the aforementioned Wrestling Revolver versus House of Glory, Philadelphia, where you had a title for title match between Mike Santana and Alex Shelley. You know, which it looked like Santana won both, but then the decision was reversed. Then, of course, you had Supercard of Honor, where you had Mark Briscoe defeat Eddie Kingston. Then you had TJPW Live in Philly, where it was highlighted by Maka Ito and Miro Yamashita versus Mao Watabe and Rika Tatsuma. Then you had Progress make the return to the U.S. in Philadelphia with Freedom Walks Again. Then you had two GCW events back-to-back. You had Joey Janela's Spring Break 8, and you had For the Culture. Then you had the Hall of Fame. Then, on April 6th, you had New Japan Pro Wrestling. And this, I think, was in Japan. This was in Japan. It wasn't here in the States. I don't think it was here in the States. I don't think it was. Which was headlined by Naito versus Yota Tetsuto. Naito versus Yota for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. And then you had WrestleMania 40, night one, WrestleMania Saturday. Then you had GCW's FA's Big Gay Brunch, which was headlined by Bussy versus Dirty Breeze, Dirty Breeze is Dirty Dango, Fandango, and Tyler Breeze, if you will. And then that's about it. And then I think they did have something on April 7th outside of WrestleMania Sunday. But yeah, a lot of respect to the men and women. A lot of respect to the men and women that had to go back to back, especially if they were competing. Within, I wouldn't say within the, what's the word I'm looking for? A lot of respect to the men and women that were competing within the span of just a few hours, if not moments. A lot of respect to them. Because, it's like, they could say, no, I don't want to do that. I just want to wrestle once or twice and that's it. Some of them, like I said, they went back to back within the span of a few days. Like I said, you can have Marsha Slamovich, at Bloodsport, Bloodsport 10, and then about less than 24 hours later, you could have her competing against Mike Bailey in that WR Hog event, Wrestling Revolver and House of Glory Philadelphia event. You could have that happening. And then you could have both of them showing up for GCW to compete in, a clusterfuck battle royal or compete in a deathmatch like scenario. So a lot of respect for them. A lot of respect for these people. I can't say any more than that because, it's, you hear all these stories of old school wrestling back in the 70s and 80s and all that, early 80s that is, to where the champion, the NWA champion, the world champion, or the WWF champion, would compete would compete twice, in one day. Like they'd compete and defend the title in an afternoon show, then they'd fly out or drive as far as they can to get to the next destination and compete that evening, defending their title as well. So to me, you got to have respect for them doing that, and also you got to have respect. You got to have respect for the talent today doing something similar like that by going from one place to another. I mean, I got to shout out JD from NY206. I got to shout him out. I got to shout out Andrew Baydella. I got to shout out Solomonster. You guys don't live that far. You guys live like what? It's 2 hours away by car? 2 hours, 2.5 hours away by car? I got to shout you guys out for going out of your way and doing what you had to do. I mean, JD with Andrew Baydella, did a tailgate yesterday, for WrestleMania Sunday, as well as a live show. I don't know where you can find that live show at. A live Tuesday Night Titans. I guess that was just for the crowd. But yeah, they did that. They attended WrestleMania. I think they attended it, and then JD drives back to his home. I think he drove back. Either that or he was doing all this from his hotel. I have to. Maybe somebody super chatted him with that, because it's like, he was there, but it almost sounded like he left before Mania happened, or he was there and then he just went to his hotel. He had everything set up there. I'm guessing that's what happened, because if he's traveling by plane, ain't no way he's gonna set all that up, or pack all that up to be shipped by plane along with him. His green screens and all that. So I'm assuming, driving less than 2 hours, he was able to get a hotel and set things up there himself. And you could tell maybe he was in a hotel because his chair was a little bit different. Like, we know, like, I'm not saying it wasn't the same chair he uses, but it felt like it was different. Just my opinion. But yeah, shout out to JD, shout out to Solomonster, shout out to Andrew Baydella for doing it, for going all out and do what they did. Because even JD on, what was it on? I'm trying to make sure. Yeah, on JD basically on the 5th, he went and met up with Andrew Baydella, left early in the morning. He said he had to get coffee twice, almost in a row. Like from one place that was very recommended in Philadelphia, then at a Starbucks, because after he did his first thing with Andrew Baydella, he had to drive to the Trinity Center. That's right, the Trinity Center. This thing is, when I saw on camera, when I saw the footage online, on Twitter, via, now known as X, when I saw the footage that Hog and Wrestling Revolver were putting out, I was like, wait a minute, are they wrestling in a church? Because that's what Trinity, to me, when you have it built like that and you have the stained glass windows and everything, to me that's a church-like inspired setting, and that's what it felt like. It felt like they were competing at a church, and if they were, good for them. But yeah, that's where the Wrestling Revolver House of Glory event was taking place. And I'm thinking, whoa, they're competing at a church. Huh, interesting. But yeah, that's what they were doing. That's what they did, I should say. They competed there. Oh, JD went there. And then I think he went home. He actually went home because it's less than 2 hours away. He went back home, rested up, then drove back for Saturday, take care of stuff there with Andrew Baydella, as well as attend WrestleMania. And then I think what he did for the Saturday trip is he packed all his things up and got himself ready to, do a live stream from the hotel or wherever he was staying that night. Because there ain't no way he's going to want to travel back 2 hours and, basically do stuff there. Basically, he's not, basically, if I'm him, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to check into a hotel. That's what I'm going to do. And I'm pretty sure that's what he did. He just made it look like he was, it made it look like he was still in his old facility and all that. But the mic was different. I think the mic was a little different. Maybe you guys can correct me on that as well. But yeah, shout out to him and Solomonster and Andrew Baydella for really just pulling out all the stops. Solomonster did not attend WrestleMania, apparently, but he was there to take part in some festivities. He took part in a in a live, I wouldn't say live stream, but he took part in a Q&A, and very, I guess you could say, what was it? Let me double check on him. Let me double check on what he did. Because I know he has it up. He has it up and everything. Let me see. WrestleMania predictions, and he was doing something in collaboration with Fox Sports, The Wrestler. So, along with Mark Henry on predictions and just talking to Mark and all that. So he did that. And then I think he came back home and everything to watch WrestleMania. Now, I don't know if he attended it, but, he doesn't have a green screen like JD does. So, yeah, I don't think he did. He just went and did his thing in Philadelphia, drove back, and, just watched the rest of the events unfold on television like the rest of us. But, yeah, shout out to him for doing what he had to do, and then shout out to Bagdella and JD. You guys killed it. You guys really killed it. And, showing your dedication as not just, people that work within the business, but as fans yourself. So, shout out to you guys. But, yeah, another big, again, I know I'm being repetitive, and it sounds like I'm just rambling here, but I just wanted to come on here and just talk about the respect that I have to have for these talents that do this every year during WrestleMania week, where basically, they talk with, they basically get themselves booked, because of who they work for and the storylines they're involved in, during WrestleMania. I got to give them credit. I got to give them credit for working out the schedule to where they're like, if they're wrestling a GCW event, but then a few hours later they got to do a Hog event, got to give them credit. Got to give them all the credit in the world, because not many people can do that and continue doing it at a high pace. Because, again, you take someone like Mike Bailey, you take someone like Marsha Slamovich, and you put them in this kind of a scenario, and you have them compete at a high pace within just a few hours of going against each other, and now they're going up against different opponents. Again, lots of credit, and I can't say any more than that. But yeah, it just blows my mind. And a lot of these events you see on the left side here of the screen, some of these all did not take place on the 4th, but there's just some of them that did. Like you have WrestleCon Philadelphia, you have this Sakura Genesis, which I'm assuming took place, in Japan. You have the collective, GCW collective, that took place this weekend. You have the Spring Break Bash. I think that's one right there. Then down below you have WR and Hog, Philadelphia, Supercard of Honor, Stardom. Again, all the respect to them. All the respect for doing what they did. And, you gotta, and again, you gotta give it up for them, because some of the best major respect you can give, some of the biggest and best, major respect you can give is to the talents and the promotions that go that actually, and this is the truth, you can look it up on Thriller TV, they actually compete, right at midnight or a little after WrestleMania is over. They wait a few hours, they see what people from the Philadelphia attendance in Lincoln Financial Field is going to show up, which is, believe it or not, a lot. And guess what happens? They start immediately. They see they got a decent crowd. Again, some people may be coming from WrestleMania. They start like a few hours after, almost like I would say, because they're on the East Coast, right? And WrestleMania ends after 10, so they start at 11, if not 10:30. And it's like, give them credit, because they could say, no, we're gonna do this tomorrow during the day and all that. No, they don't do that. They say, we're gonna take advantage. Hopefully people from WrestleMania show up, the people in attendance, and we're gonna start this son of a bitch at 10:30, 11, and we're gonna go to 1 or 2 in the morning. And give them credit for that. They do, or they did. Again, GCW had this Clusterfuck Forever event, highlighted by the Clusterfuck Forever Battle Royal. And OMG, what did I see in this thing? I didn't see the event live, but the images I saw, I'm like, what the hell? You know, you had that doll, that Yomakuto doll or whatever it's called. That's a wrestler, if you will, that Jim Cornette hates to death. Let's be honest with that. He hates that thing. But yeah, you have that Yokomusa doll from DDT Pro. That was part of it. You had somebody in a freaking... I gotta bring this up on my phone. I don't want to chance anything here, so let me bring this up on my phone. Because I know it's on here, and I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but you had somebody in a freaking chicken outfit. I swear to God. I swear to God that you had somebody in a freaking chicken outfit, you know, in this battle royal. I swear to God you had it. Let me see if I can bring it up. I don't know if it'll come up or something. Let's see. And apparently the first hour of Raw tonight, the Raw After Mania, is going to be commercial free according to Adam Pearce. That's cool. So let me see. I know it's here. Let's see. Oh yeah, and somebody did put this up. Yeah, that's all the events right here that took place right on this end on WrestleMania week. So, yeah, like I said, big props to them. Big respect. But I'm trying to find what I was trying to find, you know, it here. Let's see, hold on. Hold on, guys. Gonna look. Gonna look here. Hold on. And that's a train in the background. Let's see. I don't know if it's on this one or it's on another one. No, it's here. Here it is. So, yeah, you had the Clusterfuck Battle Royal, which was run by Microman, and it came down to him, the DDT Yokoshiko doll, and Nick Gage. Yeah, Nick Gage was, I think, the last competitor. Nick Gage eliminates the doll, and then Microman ends up eliminating him. And let's see. See what else we have here. Yep. That's the doll I'm talking about. I don't know if you guys can see that, but that's the doll I'm talking about right there. The one that Jim Cornette hates. But then here we go. Here's what I'm talking about. Look at this. I'm trying to... So, okay. So we had this in there. Let me see if I can zoom in on it. We had this in there as part of the Battle Royal. The Clusterfuck Forever Battle Royal. And then we had this also in there. I am not lying. We had that. And you know who that is standing next to them? Aja Kong. That's Aja Kong. Can you imagine what's going through her mind? Like, what did I sign up for? You know? Like, what did I sign up for? It's like what the heck, you know? You look at that kind of stuff and you're like, what the heck? I guarantee you one thing. If Brian Last brings this up with Jim Cornette, which he probably has, Jim Cornette's going to blow a gasket. He sees that, he's going to blow a gasket. Because, oh my gosh. I'm like... And keep in mind, the Clusterfuck Forever Battle Royal, the Clusterfuck Forever event, all took place after WrestleMania. That's the one thing GCW does when it comes to these kind of events. You know, they will basically schedule events late at night to ensure that whatever crowd comes from said WWE event is going to be able to attend the GCW event. And they'll probably do the same come August because they got SummerSlam at Cleveland Browns Stadium. But yeah, a lot of respect for these people. A lot of respect. Again, let me see who else is in this. I think Pro Wrestling World might have more information. I think. Let me see. Let me look them up. Let me look them up and everything. I don't know if they have any information, but let's see. Trying to see here if they have any information. Nope. But yeah, they had people like Tommy Dreamer in there, Nick Gage, I believe. Did they have? I think they had Nick Webb as well. Nick Webb as well was in there. I think that's what they said. I think I need to get a new phone eventually. It even lets me do anything. Here we go. Yeah, and like I said, they had a lot of people. Like I said, they had Nick Webb in there. They had Tommy Dreamer in there. And this was a very late night event, is what it was. A very late night event. Again, it took place, I think, a few hours after WrestleMania went off the air. WrestleMania Night 1, that is. Let's see. So, yeah, they had Nick Gage. You had the Doll, of course. You had Nate Webb in there, which is a name I've heard. You had Nate Webb. You had Shane Douglas in there. You had Broski Jimmy in there. I don't know who that is, but Shane Douglas was in it as well. You know, yeah, and this is how they advertisement. They said it's time for the clusterfuck, if you will. Elimination can happen by pinfall, submission, over the top rope, leaving the building, and death. Oh, that's a nice way to advertise it. Possibly 100 entrants. Oh my goodness. I'm like, what the hell? And they had their own variation of a Punjabi prison match. It was a 4-team match for the GCW the GCW tag team titles. And they were even joking of whether or not their Punjabi prison match would hold together, and it did. You had Juicy Fatu instead of Jacob Fatu because Jacob is now signed to WWE. So I think he's going to debut either tonight or Friday. So yeah, it's that's again. I have to give props, like I said, to companies like GCW for doing that and the talent to be like, yeah, we'll go attend and support people at WrestleMania, and then we'll just go and take part in this event, you know. And this was crazy too because I don't know if they wanted to save money or something. But they did not, as far as I know. You look at the ring mat; they did not change that whatsoever. They kept the collective name across the mat. They did not change it. They did not change it whatsoever. So, I guess they just decided, okay, we're going to, have all these promotions just compete in the same, compete at separate times and separate events, but use the same ring mat, But yeah, just like I said, just on here, I'm just on here, just giving my free thoughts, my free for all, if you will, thoughts on this past week. And again, WrestleMania, like I said in my review, was great. Obviously, like I said, a breath of fresh air. You could definitely tell that, and you could definitely tell they're getting as far away from Vince and his mentality as possible. You could see that. And you could even see it with Bruce Pritchard, because when he got called to the ring along with Triple H after Cody won, you could tell that despite how people feel about Bruce and his future, yes, it is in doubt because, his closeness with Vince at one point, it's like, okay, is he going to be on the chopping block despite being close with Cody? You could tell that he feels a little more rejuvenated, like now he's starting to see that things are better without Vince. But again, if I'm him, I'm kind of being a little bit more concerned about what the future may hold for me. But yeah, definitely a breath of fresh air. And it wasn't just felt, in my opinion, with WrestleMania both nights, despite the weather, because the weather did play a factor on night one. Let's not kid ourselves. Okay? WrestleMania did not, not WrestleMania, but the weather did not did not favor anybody, whatsoever. Did not favor anybody on night one. I mean, even Cody this morning talked about it on the Today Show. He talked about the fact that when he looked into the crowd and he saw people's hairs were drying, the people's hairs were, drying up a little bit because of the coldness. It was like, yeah, we're in the thick of it now. Because even he realized that. It's like, yeah, you have heaters on, under the canopy above the ring to try to keep things warm. And it's like, yeah, it ain't working. Cody's like, yeah, it didn't work that well, But yeah, it is definitely, but yeah, outside of that, and there was good wrestling. There was good wrestling on that night. The weather did not help people whatsoever. I mean, people might say, oh, well, if they could have got up and cheered and, kept themselves warm, that would have helped. Look, even if that would have helped, it still was cold, bitterly cold. And as I've said, and as I've been thinking about it, if I'm WWE, the reason I think they have not yet named a locale for WrestleMania 41, that may happen tonight. They might wait to the Raw after Mania to say, hey, this is where WrestleMania is going next year. That might be something they do from now on. But if I'm WWE, and whatever city gets WrestleMania in the future, not just next year but in the years to come, if I'm WWE, what I do, honestly, is not only do I announce where WrestleMania is going and what the venue is going to be initially, but I always make sure I have a backup plan. So, let's say in the near future, they end up going to, I don't know, what facility is still open here. Let's say they go to the Big House in Michigan. Ann Arbor. That may be far-fetched, but let's say they do that. They would have to, not only would that be the area for them to go, that would be like, okay, that's the locale for WrestleMania, but they would definitely have to double-check, quadruple-check, and make sure that not only is the weather going to be okay maybe at that time of year, but just as a precaution, what they need to do is name not only the Big House in Ann Arbor on the University of Michigan campus as home of WrestleMania, but what they also should announce is, just in case of weather, interference, choose something else. Choose, let's say, Ford Field as a backup. Something like that. Or the Palace, or what was formerly the Palace in Auburn Hills, or wherever the Pistons play now, as a backup, just in case. That would be me. Same thing if they decided, hey, we're going to go to the Rose Bowl. We're going to have WrestleMania at the Rose Bowl. Make sure that obviously they'd have better weather there. They'd have better climate weather there. But make sure that even if that's the case, even if that's not the case, I should say, make sure you have a backup plan. Like, make sure you look at SoFi as a backup plan, or you look at the Forum or Staples Center as a backup plan, just in case the Rose Bowl don't work out. I'm just saying. But yeah, there's no doubt that the weather did play a factor on night 1, but night 2 was better. And yeah, there's no doubt. Overall, it was a great WrestleMania. It had its ups and its downs, but the positives really outweighed any negatives. And I think anybody would agree with that. I think also the fact that the reason, it wasn't so enthusiastic on night 1 is because a lot of the fans there kind of knew what the outcome was going to be in the main event. And they wanted to those that were coming back the next day, wanted to save that energy for the result they knew was possibly coming in the main event of night 2. So yeah, overall though, great week, and definitely, as I said, you could feel the change, not just within WWE with WrestleMania 40, but the change overall in wrestling in general now that Vince is gone. You could feel the domino effect all over the place. The only company in anybody's eyes right now, despite how you might feel about them, that needs to really adapt as well, really get with it, and allow that domino effect of change to affect them, is AEW. They need to start letting the domino effect affect them and change with the times as well. And hopefully we'll see that not just tomorrow, not just Wednesday, where you have a TNT title match and a World Championship match elimination match, you have a World Championship eliminator match, not just with that, but mostly with Dynasty. Let the domino effect affect you too, so that way you can ride the wave of momentum that wrestling is on now, thanks to this new Renaissance era, this new Triple H Paul Levesque era, if you will, that we're in, this TKO era that we're in, without Vince McMahon. But anyway, that's all I really wanted to say on here, guys. I know it sounded like I rambled a little bit, but again, I just wanted to come on here, free for all, just shoot the breeze, give you my thoughts overall on WrestleMania week, WrestleMania itself. Give my respect to the talents that went back to back to back to back within the span of hours over the past few days. Giving my respect and shout out to the likes of JD, Solomonster, and Andrew Baydella, for putting in the time that they did to go back and forth between their homes and everything during this, providing content, for fans, doing tailgates, doing commentary. Give them all the credit in the world there. Also, a shout out to Alex Hicks for having to do what he had to do throughout this week, keeping his channel busy and all that as well as Greg Morgan, because I know it's a very busy time for everybody that does, that talks about wrestling, as a major part of their channel on YouTube or anywhere. I know it takes a lot out of you, especially during WrestleMania week, because you don't just have WrestleMania to talk about, but if you're invested, you have other content and other shows and promotions to talk about. But anyway, though, guys, just wanted to give you my thoughts overall. Again, shout out to everybody out there that competed, went back to back to back to back to back every night, to the content creators, and then went back and forth between Philadelphia and the homes on the East Coast, as well as to those that were at home like me that just went basically back to back to back to back days with content, live streams, or recordings. So anyway, though, guys, let me know what your thoughts are down below. I will post this later as soon as YouTube allows me to download it and everything, because it takes about 12 or so hours to do so, if not less. But let me know what your thoughts overall on WrestleMania week. Let me know if any of you attended some of these events outside of WrestleMania. And until then, I will talk to y'all later.